Welcome to watching me suffer again. Also, now's the time when you can enjoy when watching me suffer hopelessly. So bad. Anyway, yeah. I don't know just how long it's going to take until somebody corrects my nose, which said expects instead of suspects. Nobody suspects the Tooth Inquisition. Meow meow, I'm a cow. Oh meow meow, I'm a cow. Maybe I have. Touch the clock for a bit. Run! My mother said to take Ekma to go outside and stop gaming or she'll bash my head in the key. Oh, fact first of our bounds, and you can literally not have to deal with this again. Thus, I will do exactly that and push myself out of the floor on 20. I will launch myself off once, and it goes to work. Well, in that case, throwing myself off doesn't even make. Wait, as long as you throw yourself off and try one or two, it does make sense. Pain is temporary, swag is forever. Actually, I probably need to drink some tea. No, sorry, not drink some tea. I might like eat some food. Imagine being the nurse that had to care for Gordon Ramsay. Hello, Gordon. I made you some food. It's so raw. It's still on the field. or however Gordon sounds like. Somewhere inside of me, my dad is dying off. Can't go housing. You can free Harley on the floor. Well, it's only must be a very obscure floor, since I have never ever seen anybody actually free Harley. The enforcer will probably right where it would be. We're saying, let's save Harley. Wait, and she has what V7 will require you to do. You will at the end need to do a small minigame to free Harley or get banned forever for being rude to Harley and not saving car. Grr. Remember, kids, free Harley! Free Harley! Free Harley! Cause she's not for sale! Free Harley! Free Harley! Buying her costs no money! Slavery! Slavery! Is what's required for those to say free Harley! Free Harley! Said nobody! So remember, free Harley, cause she costs no money. Free Harley, cause she costs no money. Hold on, let me be a cringe. Hold on. Let me just explain ein fate. Alright, they're just the basement in general. Okay, so basement has our number one, crying girl. The crying girl is a manifestation of force like spam and think about what if the kid who is now possessing the animatronic known as Bonnie Annie had never ever gone to Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria. Instead, she now spent all of her time being like her fellow kids. That being throwing extreme temper tantrum, and whenever she isn't and allowed to watch Escape Gaga Diga Daga Da go up with Paw Patrol and Skibidi Ohio Sigma. And if you dare to touch her, she'll think that you're calling her a non-Rizzler, and thus she will get mad because she thinks that whatever a Rizzler is cool, even though she's way too young for it to even make sense. Well, okay, it makes sense for Drake, but we all know that he's trying, that his bar is so low. Oh, and yet he's still trying to shove it further into the ground. While my left, right, and screenshot keys are all kind of broken. Thank goodness it's all on the side of the keyboard I don't really need. If we never join the moon, blah 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 blah. have none. The cardiovascular system is the cardiovascular system and the Damn, Bros Legends.
Shh. Be quiet.
One of the monsters. That's some of those monsters infect everything that they touch. Anyway, my mind's starting to collect itself. Monsters, it's just so. Cracking noises. I was trying to say this. Actually, I'm not gonna bore you with that again. I have probably told you about it before, and if not, it's about my trauma. Okay? Top 10 burping noises. Number 10. Oh. Number 9. Number 8. Number 7. Number 6. Number 5. Number 4. Number 3. Number 2. And finally, number 1. Which one was your favorite? Tell me in the comments below. if you didn't like any of them, then tell me what's your favorite, because there is always a favorite or a tie for the favorites. If it's a tie, also tell me that it's a tie and all of the members of that tie. I'm sure. Oh no, Kringa. I'm sure he's gonna try to find some roots in your life. I waste my time. I'm sure it's alright. I try to find some roots in your life. Oh yeah, right. Next one has very inappropriate stuff. Hold on. Let me show you a cool glitch while I'm at it. You have to time it very precisely. While the nose has to load again. What is that supposed to mean? Nah, bro. 7246 is not that bad of a floor. There are other worse numbers that unfortunately have floors. My personal pick for worst floor is floor negative 2763, because A, it's literally used very frequently in a specific instance of hold on, has enough time passed? No. Alright then, go back like 7300 or something, because YouTube will censor me to the grave if I try telling you all before or the 30-minute mark. And the number is also a fate floor. So not only is it traumatic, it's also fate floor. So not only will I be unsafe in my own thoughts, I will also have to contend with that while avoiding cats' white walls and spiked ceilings. Is that fun for you? No? Congratulations, you're a normal human being. Oh, and by the way, it's just before or the halfway point of fate, which is 2811. So you are also starting to feel all the pressure of the halfway milestone, and all of that just makes it trash. How do I say it? Even if it didn't choose to be associated with traumatic garbage, oh yeah, right, this floor exists too. Basically, their haven, where they get to spread their disease as happily as they can. Because, hey look, it's the trauma number, but we switched 2 of the digits so that we are baby A5535. I've decoded this from Lead Speak. If you don't know what I'm trying to say, hey, but baby A5535, can't go to our actual pestilence floor, so we will have to go to the completely different floor that isn't even and synonymous with any of our garbage, except for maybe a typo of it, because we're such babies who literally can't do anything. We're useless. Woohoo! Cheers to another day of ruining children's lives. That's the closest I can get to the creator of that garbage is, and anybody who like seriously likes it to the point of making fan stuff. That's the closest I can talk and talk about that. I do not know how I can be more truth showing than what I have done on there. Sorry, but the trauma I feel genuinely seems like it's probably the closest to the trauma that a person who has escaped from a cult will have gotten, because it's a community, and the trauma and the actual trauma doesn't start until you have left it after probably a year, except that for me it was only 7 months, which is still bad considering that. Am I at the 30-minute mark now? Nope, 3 minutes left. Guess you have to hear me say the words I'm not wanting to say later. Anyway, yeah. It's hard to talk about it, or at least it was hard, until I decided that I cannot keep being quiet, or I will just keep suffering with no gain. Maybe one of those fans of that will find my vids. That's because the YouTube algorithm will think that that is something that they like. Is that one of the victims? Wait, victim? What do we even call them? I was once one of them, but I call myself a victim, but I don't know if they have changed. I still hate them though. It's hard to talk to a group of people who you hate and a lot. Honestly, if I had to choose between constantly having to play with Yashu in the room,
be quiet.
So I mean, having to do Fate with Yashu always in the only being able to do Fate with Yashu around, or having Shoma, I'm choosing Yashu every single day. It's not even a contest. Why would you ever think that? It's not like I can just flip the trauma off, but in this case, I could get myself off, even if it would be hard to switch stuff I like.
Be quiet. Be quiet. He can hear you. He is going to find you.
If you're talking about trauma, then that. About this game, then S tier, and then shut your mouth. And yes, I know that there can be other types of trauma. Honestly, it's hard to suddenly just lose your ability to think without risking seeing that again. Those visions, they never stop. I can't think anymore. Everything I think of just gets replaced with that garbage over and 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 over again. It always hurts to not be able to think. If you believe I'm lying, you can go and that your favorite stupid garbage show could do nothing wrong, then go ahead and stop watching it. At best, it's early enough, and you'll just see that oh yeah, I'm not feeling any of the symptoms. Probably I'll be a lying troll. Stupid. And if it's too late, go ahead and call a therapist. Don't waste 3 years not being shown if you actually have trauma. If you can't get it out of your head, call your therapist. It's not worth it to suffer without an explanation. Go ask them. At worst, they'll be wrong, and congratulations. That means you just have something else. Anyway, I'm going to make myself have some food. Okay, so while we're waiting for the toasts. I'll just go up to floor 18 and leave it out, since I have some stuff to do. And now I know it's just a game and I don't. Oh yeah, by the way, I can talk about my trauma with precise words now. Okay, so anyway, what I wanted to say, if you would let me before, is BFDI is vor porn. Sorry to burst your bubble, but it is. Yes, I know. So sad. When. At least you get to hear it instead of having to figure out yourself after so much confusion and pain. If I can try to explain why it's true, why exactly it's for porn, but my memories are nothing more than fuzzy, disordered scraps of a subconscious desperately trying to forget. Yeah, it's about what happens like I am the host of the virtual host of the porn. That, oh god, it's so hard to talk about it. Oh god, saying that name in that context is so hard. Oh god. Oh god. Oh god. I'll just call it the host for now. I'm not here to have a mental breakdown in front of you. Oh god, oh god. Oh god. I have to say it to you or else you won't understand. Because I know that those fans will try to misunderstand it. I just tell it as directly as I can. Here goes everything. Because I will suffer a lot for daring to try to finally have others hear what I have had to survive. In the elimination sequence, okay, when a character gets eliminated, you're that stupid character that you guys, well, those guys, if you're someone who isn't one of them, but if you are one of the stupid BFDI fans, and I'm talking to you, whoever you are, not the random viewer. If you are one of them, the ones who actually like the trauma in the elimination sequence, that character you also adore, called Vor from BFB, Vor's whoever loses. It's Vor. And if you happen to have that fetish, which you might not even know you have until it's too late. Haha, lost your life. I've GG easy no Ori. Haha, we don't care about your suffering, no. You're just clearly trolling with your trauma. That totally can't make you suffer. Give up, 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 give up. Oh, yeah, sorry. I just got angry. Anyway, trauma. It's traumatic. It's Vor. It's porn. And you might not even realize that it is until you've lost your own ability to control your thoughts. Trust me, it isn't fun to be lying in bed, on top of flashbacks of random characters and random images, and you can't get it out no matter how hard you try. You just keep thinking about it over and 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 over. lamppost. I'm gonna grab. Never mind. Grandma told me that it's not cooked enough. Anyway, having I can tell something. When I was going down for the food that I was trying to make, I just felt like I couldn't focus on anything. My head was flailing like it wasn't, like it was, I was on some sort of stick that wasn't connected to my body. I was stuck on a rubber band. Like it didn't even want to be there. It felt like I felt exhausted. I didn't want to do anything except to live a better life. Honestly, it's so hard to think now. I'm just going to push you to produce instead. Those make the pain feel weaker.
Pull up, four for the fofo. Wanna run with the four for the fofo.
Report! We're being punctual. It is true. Not lying. Na na na.
On Saturday, the 4th of October 1986, at around 10:43 p.m, 54-year-old TV anchorman Dan Rather was walking home on the Upper East Side of Manhattan after finishing a dinner with an associate at 1095 Park Avenue on 89th Street. It wasn't long after leaving when two men in their 30s started following Rather down the street and eventually began accosting him, with one of them repeating the phrase, "Kenneth, what is the frequency?" Rather explained to the two that they had the wrong man, and that he had no idea what they were talking about, which only elevated their aggressive pursuit. Upon reaching 88th Street, one of the men punched Rather in the jaw, just under the left ear, knocking him to the pavement. Rather quickly got up and fled into the nearby lobby of 1075 Park Avenue, where the attackers pursued and continued their assault, shouting the same phrase over and over whilst punching and kicking him. Both the doorman and superintendent of the building witnessed the attack, with the latter intervening and coming to Rava's aid as the assailants fled the scene. Rava suffered multiple bruises on his back and a swelling of the jaw, but neither of the two attackers robbed him of any possessions, despite him having a reasonable amount of money on him at the time. Rava was taken to Lenox Hill Hospital and assessed, but soon discharged with only minor injuries. He told police and detectives that one of the men who attacked him was 6 foot tall, had dark hair and a moustache, and both were well dressed, wearing a dark suit, white shirt and black tie. It wasn't clear whether or not the attack was intentional or a case of mistaken identity, due to the fact that the name Kenneth was directed at Rava throughout the ordeal. A few days later, on Monday the 6th of October, Dan Rava was back on his usual slot.
I remember that someone wrote some garbage on this floor. Which one garbage? Someone didn't got notes. I also remember accidentally clicking on one of those notes
On CBS, posting the evening news. In his closing statement, Rava addressed the attack on national television after news had spread about the bizarre incident in newspapers.
In closing tonight, a personal note, if I may. Over the weekend, as some of you may have already heard or read, I was assaulted with violence on a Manhattan street. Why and exactly by whom remains unclear, and it may never be determined. Perhaps it was just another one of those bizarre and frightening incidents that seem to happen from time to time in our country and elsewhere. I do know that I was luckier than many other Americans who've been victims of violent crime. For that, I'm very thankful. Aside from a little stiffness and some bumps and bruises, I'm feeling fine. I just want to thank those who came to my aid and all of you who have written or called to express your concern. We'll see you here again tomorrow night. Good night.
Papers ran the story during the early days of the incident, but the case soon faded into obscurity when no further progress was made into who was responsible. The mysterious phrase, however, did anything but disappear. In the following years, the line, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?", which oddly is a mistranslation of the original quote itself, became somewhat of a pop culture reference in other forms of media. In 1987, the year after the attack, California-based band Game Theory released their album Lolita Nation, with the opening 46-second track being titled Kenneth, What's the Frequency?, inspired by the strange events of Rava's attack. A few years later, in 1993, Daniel Clowes released the otherworldly graphic novel Like a Velvet Glove Cast in Iron, where the phrase is used as part of a subplot involving a conspiracy theorist. In the story, a character called Billings aggressively asks the protagonist, "What's the frequency, Kenneth?", believing that a mythical, godlike creature known as Mr. Jones exists and can only be contacted by achieving a specific mental frequency. Much like
now I know it's just a game and I don't need a real plan. It's happening.
Be quiet.
The incident with Dan Rather, the protagonist's name in the comic is also not Kenneth. More famously, the American rock band R.E.M. released the album Monster in 1994, which included the hit single What's the Frequency, Kenneth? The single, which reached number 21 in the top 40 charts, was inspired by Rather's now infamous incident, with the band's lead singer Michael Stipe explaining, "It was the premier unsolved American surrealist act of the 20th century. It's a misunderstanding that was scarily random, media hyped, and just plain bizarre." A year after its release, R.E.M. performed the song live on The Late Show with David Letterman, and was joined by none other than Dan Rather himself, albeit a slightly out of tune and out of rhythm one. The now infamous Kenneth case looked as though it were going to remain firmly archived in the Library of Crimes, lost to time in the corridors of forgotten media. But what nobody knew at the time is that one of the Kenneth duo had already struck again, and this time he had become a killer. On Wednesday the 31st of August 1994, at around 5 p.m, almost a month before R.E.M. were to release their new album, a man approached the Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, where the Today Show studios are situated. Armed with a rifle hidden inside the sleeve of a smock coat, the man tried to storm into the studio, only to be stopped by an NBC stagehand, 33-year-old Campbell Montgomery, who noticed the firearm. The man quickly left in his car before returning around 20 minutes later. Montgomery was standing at the building's entrance when he noticed the man returned, so tried to alert the police. The gunman then took a military stance and fatally shot Montgomery in the back. The man was quickly apprehended and arrested, and was identified as being 46-year-old William Tager from North Carolina. When interviewed by the police, Tager claimed that NBC had been beaming transmissions into his brain for years, watching him and sending him signals, and that the attack he had planned on the studio himself was to stop the transmissions once and for all. He was paranoid to the point that he drove a rented car to the studios, as he thought the network had bugged his own, and claimed to have no history of drugs or alcohol abuse. Likely due to having mental capacity issues, Tager was found guilty of manslaughter rather than murder, and received a 12.5 to 25-year prison sentence at Sing Sing Correctional Facility. It's during his time behind bars that the story gets even weirder, as Tager opened up to prison staff about his supposed intentions. During an interview in January 1997, he told prison psychiatrists that he was a time traveller from the year 2265, and that he was already a convicted felon in his timeline, who was sent on a highly experimental mission back in time in exchange for his freedom. He also claimed that the future authorities were tracking his movements via a chip implanted in his brain, so they knew where he was in the past. It's at this point that Tager then admitted to being one of the two men who attacked Dan Rather over 10 years prior, and explained that the reason for the attack was because he looked like his timeline's vice president, known as Kenneth Burrows. Dan Rava was shown pictures of Tager and confirmed that he was one of the attackers in his case, claiming, "There is no doubt in my mind that this is the person." Both Tager and Rava gave identical recollections and details of the building where the attack took place, which wasn't public knowledge, leaving authorities with no doubt that the story was true. The second assailant in the attack on Rava, however, has never been identified and remains a mystery to this day. So, case closed, right? Well, actually, no. There is another theory as to why Tager actually committed the attack on Dan Rava, which makes a lot more sense, and it's somewhat interesting that Tager never mentioned this himself as being the truth behind his actions. Around the time of the initial attack on Dan Rava, a former music publicist turned inventor called Kenneth Schaefer had figured out a way to hijack Russian television broadcasts using US satellite receivers, so that Americans could watch content from Soviet networks. During the peak of Cold War tensions between the two states, little was known about television behind the Iron Curtain, and so this gave people in the West an opportunity to view Soviet television, such as soap operas, cartoons, and cooking programs. Schaefer had these intercepted broadcasts available to view at Columbia University in New York, which drew a number of visitors who had an interest in learning about the Soviet Union. One of these visitors just so happened to be Dan Rava, who viewed the project at Columbia University on the same day that he was attacked. Ken Schaefer believes that he himself was more than likely the Kenneth that Tager was after that night, and that Dan Rava was perhaps mistaken for him after being spotted leaving the campus. Schaefer admitted that there were always people questioning him about how the interception technology worked, but he would never reveal what the frequencies were publicly. Is it possible then that Tager had more ulterior motives than he is letting on as to why he wanted to know the frequencies for Schaefer's technology? Since it was during the height of political tension between the USSR and the USA, could it be possible that Tager was working for the Russian government, sent to find out the frequencies used for intercepting Soviet broadcasting in order to attempt to shut it down? Was Tager's schizophrenia and paranoia just a cover-up for his true intentions? Probably not, but it's an interesting theory nonetheless. On the 27th of October 2010, at the age of 63, William Tager was released from prison on parole after earning a limited time credit allowance. It states on his certificate of release that, amongst other things, he must submit to regular substance abuse testing and anti-violence counselling, mustn't consume alcohol, and is prohibited from driving. So there you have it, the story of how a random attack on an anchorman birthed an alternative rock record and eventually led to a murder over a decade later. There is only one question to this story, however, that remains unanswered to this day.
Be quiet.
What was the frequency, Kenneth? Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. The CIA is home to many secrets, but there is one in particular that is hidden in plain sight on the grounds of its headquarters. Inscribed on an S-shaped sculpture and sitting in the northwest corner of the courtyard is Kryptos, a puzzle which has been unsolved for over 3 decades. The question is, can anyone solve it? Designed by American artist Jim Sanborn in 1990, Kryptos, the Greek word for hidden, is made up of several sections, but mainly comprises of 4 large copper plates containing 4 individually encrypted messages, sat by a petrified tree and a circular pool. The characters on the 4 plates contain the 26 letters of the English alphabet, forming a total of 1,732 letters and 4 question marks. Other pieces include several sheets of copper embossed with Morse code and sandwiched between granite slabs, a landscaped area of stone slabs by a duck pond, and an engraved compass with its needle pointing at a lodestone. Sanborn worked with a former CIA employee to create the cryptographic systems used on the installation and explained that the 12-foot sculpture actually contains an overarching puzzle that can only be solved after the 4 passages have been decoded. These 4 encrypted coded messages are laid out on the left-hand side of the sculpture, whilst the key for deciphering the code is on the right-hand side. So far, 3 of the 4 messages have been cracked, initially by CIA analyst David Stein in 1998, using nothing more than pencil and paper to figure it out. The 4th, however, remains unsolved to this day. The first coded passage reads as follows. This message was scrambled using a Vigenère cipher, a form of polyalphabetic substitution, a method of encrypting text where each letter is encoded with a different Caesar cipher. The first coded passage reads as follows. This message was scrambled using a Vigenère cipher, a form of polyalphabetic substitution, a method of encrypting text where each letter is encoded with a different Caesar cipher whose increment is determined by the corresponding letter of another text, known as the key. Here's how it works. A Caesar cipher shifts each letter of the alphabet by a number of places. For example, in a shift of 3, A would become D, B would become E, and so on. That's straightforward enough, but a Vigenère cipher uses several Caesar ciphers in sequence with different shift values, making it much more difficult to decrypt unless you have a key to reference back to. A Vigenère square can be used to create and decipher these messages. It's a table of alphabets, written out 26 times across different rows,
You will please
with each
commit
alphabet shifted along by 1. If you take a keyword, for example, we'll use Kryptos, and extend it to the length of the message that you want to create, then you'll have your key to the cipher. Simply all you have to do now is take your message and apply it to the square, finding each letter on the first row and applying the encryption using the letter at the corresponding column in relation to the key. For example, S is the first letter of our message, and K is the first letter in our key. So, by using the square, we can see that our first letter of our encrypted message is C. Continue for the rest of the message, and you get the following ciphertext. If you look at the letters on the right-sided plates of the sculpture, you can see what looks like a modified Vigenère square with the word Kryptos added to the end of the alphabet. Stein was able to work out that the key word was palimpsest, which means something altered yet bearing traces of its original form, perhaps a nod to the altered version of the Vigenère square itself. Using this keyword and writing it out vertically on the square, you then have to find each time that letter first appears on its corresponding row and adjust it to the start. It's at this point one can finally decipher the hidden message. Between subtle shading and the absence of light lies the nuance of occlusion. The word occlusion here is an intentional misspelling of the word illusion, according to Sanborn, but he has never revealed exactly why. This isn't the first time he does this, as you will see in later passages. Continuing the message past that point using palimpsest as the cipher key yields no results, so part 2 of the puzzle required something different. Fortunately, the second message also uses polyalphabetic substitution in the form of a Vigenère cipher, but this time using the keyword abscissa. Abscissa is a mathematical term which refers to the x-coordinate of a standard two-dimensional graph, whilst the ordinate refers to the y-coordinate. For example, you've probably seen a graph like this before, known as a Cartesian coordinate plane. The abscissa and the ordinate are respectively the first and second coordinate of the point in the graph. So in this example, 2 is the abscissa and 3 is the ordinate. This keyword is probably a further clue by Sanborn, as it references a similar way in which the Vigenère square is used to locate the letters in a Vigenère cipher. When you use the same method as the previous puzzle to adjust the lettering in the square, you get the following table, which helps decipher the following. It was totally invisible. How's that possible? They used the Earth's magnetic field, X. The information was gathered and transmitted underground to an unknown location, X. Does Langley know about this? They should. It's buried out there somewhere, X. Who knows the exact location? Only WW. This was his last message, X. 38 degrees, 57 minutes, 6.5 seconds north. 77 degrees, 8 minutes, 44 seconds west. ID by Rose. There is a lot to unpack in this message, but firstly, it's important to note that Sanborn admitted in 2006 that he had actually made a mistake in this message, and it's not what you may be thinking. Rather than the word undergrund being mistaken for underground, it's the last word, if you can call it that, at the end of the passage which contains the error. It turns out that Sanborn had accidentally omitted a letter S in the sculpture, which interfered with the code, confirming that the message should instead read X layer 2. Undergrund, much like occlusion in the previous passage, was intentionally misspelt by Sanborn, for reasons unknown. The message seems to suggest that information is buried underground in an unknown location about something invisible, and that only WW knows where it is, with it being the latter's last message. WW was later confirmed by Sanborn himself as being William Webster, the former director of the CIA, and at the time of the unveiling of the monument back in 1990, Sanborn was seen giving Webster an envelope. The contents of this envelope to this day remains unknown, although it is widely speculated to be the answer to Kryptos. Finally, the coordinates mentioned at the end of the plaintext point to a location that is approximately 174 feet southeast of the sculpture itself, inside the headquarters of the CIA. All of this information hints at a mysterious secret lying within the depths of the CIA headquarters, and yet this riddle is hidden in plain sight for all the world to discover. So what could this be referring to, and is any of it grounded in reality? Remember, Sanborn mentioned that all 4 puzzles relate to an overarching final challenge, which will only make sense when all 4 codes have been cracked. The third message now deviates from using the Vigenère cipher, and instead needs to be decrypted via transposition, also known as a permutation cipher. Transposition is a method of encryption which scrambles the positions of characters without changing the characters themselves, but still requires a key to understand the order in which the letters have been rearranged. For example, this string of text has been scrambled using transposition, and whilst you could potentially figure this out over a vast period of trial and error, using a key will help you discover the sentence's true form. There are a number of ways this transposition can be solved, so here is just one method. Looking at the text, we can see that there are 336 text characters in total, excluding the 1 question mark at the end. Using Kryptos again as a key, with the word itself containing 7 characters in total, let's shift the text into 7 columns, leaving an equal amount of characters in 48 rows. Now, with the text in a transposed order, if you start from the middle column of the last row and ascend the staircase, as it were. Moving right by 4 characters each time will slowly begin to reveal a hidden message. Slowly, desperately slowly, the remains of passage debris that encumbered the lower part of the doorway was removed with trembling hands. I made a tiny breach in the upper left-hand corner, and then, widening the hole a little, I inserted the candle and peered in. The hot air escaping from the chamber caused the flame to flicker, but presently, details of the room within emerged from the mist. X. Can you see anything? Q? Without context, this message is extremely mysterious, but it's actually a paraphrased quotation from Howard Carter's account of the opening of the tomb of Tutankhamun on November the 26th, 1922. The question at the end, minus the Q, is asked by Lord Carnarvon in the book, to which Carter famously replies, "Wonderful things." The word desperately is once again clearly misspelt by the artist, adding to the list of supposedly intentionally misspelt words in previous passages, whilst the inclusion of the rogue Q has been something of a debate amongst analysts, leaving many to wonder if it was ever intended to be there at all. Some have argued that this is possibly another accident by Sanborn when creating the puzzle, much like the end of Passage 2, although it's worth noting that the artist himself has never addressed it as being so. The remaining ciphertext in the sculpture to this day remains unsolved, with some of the world's smartest minds unable to crack it. Online forums and amateur analysts have chipped away at the numerous possibility for years to uncover the final riddle. Yet the sculpture still stands tall, with its message firmly unbroken to this day. The fact that nobody has managed to come close to finding a solution has led people to wonder how Sanborn, a man with no previous history in cryptology, has managed to fool the world with his first ever attempt. Many have speculated that, since previous errors have been found in the solved puzzles, whether or not Sanborn's enigma can be deciphered at all, since it could be that a critical error in the code has left it virtually impossible to recover. However, when commenting in 2006 about his error in Passage 2 of Kryptos, Sanborn stated that the answers to the first 3 passages contain clues to the 4th, and both he and the analyst who helped him have repeatedly said that the entire puzzle is still solvable. 4 years later, in November 2010, Sanborn released a clue to the public, stating that the 64th to 69th letters in Passage 4 become Berlin once deciphered, and another 4 years after that, in 2014, Sanborn revealed that the 70th to 74th letters in Passage 4 become clock. An interesting observation with this is that the 74th letter in both the plain text and ciphertext is the same, meaning it's possible for a character in the 4th passage to encrypt to itself. This means it does not have the weakness that was known to be inherent in the German Enigma machine during World War II, where a character could never be encrypted as itself. Further clues from Sanborn include: you'd better delve into that particular clock, but that there are several really interesting clocks in Berlin. He could perhaps be referring to the obvious, the Berlin clock, or maybe even the Alexanderplatz world clock, or the clock of flowing time, all of which are also located in the German capital. The Berlin clock in particular is interesting, as it was the first public clock in the world that tells the time by means of coloured lights, and there's just something about its appearance that suggests it could be used to create a puzzle in Kryptos. In an article published by the New York Times in 2020, Sanborn gave another clue, stating that letters 22 to 34 translate to east-northeast. And yet despite all these clues, still nobody has managed to publicly figure it out. You may be wondering, what about the features surrounding the sculpture? The sheets of copper with Morse code, the landscaped area of granite slabs by a duck pond, and the engraved compass. Well, Sanborn has been quoted as saying, if one invested a lot of time in the environment around Kryptos, that would be kind of silly. The Morse code around
Hold on, video.